There are moments in life when you don't get to choose the circumstances. You only get to choose how you respond. When fate hands you an unexpected responsibility, the only thing you can control is your inner steadiness, like a rock standing firm in a raging river. As the Stoics said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters. Rain tapped gently against the window of Dr. Patel's office as Laura Bennett gripped the arms of her chair. At 37, she had spent 6 years trapped in the familiar cycle. Hope, treatment, disappointment, repeat. But today felt different. She sensed an ending, one she couldn't outrun. Sometimes the family you're meant to have isn't the one you planned for. It's the one that finds you when you're brave enough to open your heart again. The rain tapped against the window of Dr. Patel's office as Laura Bennett clutched the armrests of her chair. At 37, she'd spent the past 6 years trapped in this familiar cycle. Hope, procedures, disappointment, repeat. But something about today felt final. "I'm sorry." "Laura," Dr. Patel said, her voice gentle but firm, "we've exhausted all options. Your condition is permanent. You won't be able to conceive a child." The words hung in the air, clinical and cold. Despite the doctor's compassionate tone, Laura had suspected this for months. But hearing it confirmed turned possibility into certainty, hope into grief. "Are you sure?" Laura whispered, though she already knew the answer. "There's nothing else we can try," Dr. Patel said as she reached across the desk and took Laura's trembling hand. "I know how much this means to you, how hard you fought, but continuing would only cause more physical and emotional pain. Pain with no chance of success." Laura nodded mechanically, her mind already drifting to the nursery back home in San Diego, painted soft green 2 years ago, filled with a crib, changing table, and stuffed animals that had never known a child's touch. Ryan had stopped going into that room months ago, but Laura still stood in the doorway each morning, imagining the life that was supposed to fill it. "Thank you for everything," Laura managed, gathering her purse and jacket. "I should go. My husband will be waiting to hear." But Ryan was on a business trip in Denver. The truth was, Laura couldn't sit in that office a moment longer, watching sympathy crease around her doctor's eyes. The drive home took Laura past Highland Park, where mothers pushed strollers down leaf-lined paths and toddlers squealed from playground swings. She'd avoided that route for years, but today she deliberately turned down Aspen Avenue, forcing herself to look. A young mother knelt beside her daughter, wiping ice cream from her chin with a napkin and laughing. Laura stared for a moment too long, her car idling at the stop sign until a honk behind her jolted her back to reality. This is it, she thought. This is what acceptance feels like. Driving past a life you'll never have and finally admitting it to yourself. At home, Laura walked straight into the nursery and sat in the rocking chair, surrounded by artifacts of a dream that would never materialize. Her hand traced over the stuffed giraffe Ryan had bought when they first started trying. "For good luck," he'd said, flashing that boyish grin she'd fallen in love with during their college years. She allowed herself to cry. Really cry. Not the hopeful tears after another failed treatment, not the ones followed by next time. These were the tears of finality, of letting go. Her phone rang, cutting through the grief. Laura almost didn't answer, but years of hoping for miracle calls from doctors had trained her to never ignore a ring. "Hello? Is this Laura Bennett?" an unfamiliar voice asked. "Yes, this is she." "Mrs. Bennett, this is Mercy Medical Center. You're listed as the emergency contact for Kayla Moore." Laura sat up straight, her personal pain pushed aside. "Kayla? What happened?" "There's been an accident. Miss Moore was brought in about an hour ago. She's in critical condition, and—" The voice hesitated. "She's asking for you. She's very insistent you come right away." "I'll be there in 15 minutes, Laura said, already grabbing her keys. The hospital corridors felt endless as Laura followed a nurse to the ICU, her mind racing with questions. Kayla had been her best friend since grad school, the spontaneous one to Laura's cautiousness, the dreamer to her planner. They had been inseparable until 3 months ago, when Kayla started pulling away after giving birth to her daughter, Lily. Laura had chalked it up to new motherhood, though it had stung when Kayla refused her offers to help. "She's in here," the nurse said, stopping outside a room. "The doctor will explain more shortly. She's been sedated for pain, but she's lucid." Laura nodded, bracing herself before stepping inside. Nothing could have prepared her for the sight of vibrant, slim, laughing Kayla, now ghostly pale, tethered to machines that beeped and hissed, clinging to life. "Kayla," Laura whispered as she approached the bed. "I'm here." Kayla's eyes fluttered open, recognition flickering into a weak smile. "Laura, you came." "Of course I came," Laura said, gently taking Kayla's hand, careful of the IV. "What happened?" "Drunk driver. Hit my side of the car," Kayla murmured, her voice barely audible. "Lily wasn't with me. She's at the sitters." Relief rushed through Laura, quickly followed by guilt for being glad when her best friend was lying here, broken. "The doctors will fix you up," she said, her tone falsely bright. "You'll be chasing Lily around again in no time." Kayla's grip on Laura's hand suddenly tightened, with surprising strength. "Listen to me. I need to tell you something important." Kayla took a labored breath. "The doctors already told me, internal bleeding. They can't stop it. Punctured lung. Other things." "No," Laura shook her head, denial rising fast. "No, they can operate." "Laura," Kayla interrupted, her gaze suddenly intense. "I don't have much time. I need you to promise me something." A cold dread settled in Laura's stomach. "Anything." "Lily. Take care of my Lily." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "Don't let her go into the system. Please." Laura froze. "What about your parents?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Kayla's parents had cut ties with her when she chose to keep her baby as a single mom. No family left, no support. "Who cares?" Kayla whispered. "Just you. You're the only one I trust." A tear slid down her temple. "I've always seen the way you look at her, how natural it is for you." "Kayla, I don't know if I can." "You've always been meant to be a mother," Kayla interrupted, her voice fading. "I should have told you earlier. I named you her guardian. Months ago. The paperwork is in my apartment, top drawer of my desk. The lawyer's card is there too." Laura's mind raced. Ryan. What would Ryan say? They had talked about adoption years ago, but he had always leaned toward trying just one more treatment. And now, after today's news. But as she looked into Kayla's pleading eyes, Laura knew she couldn't say no, not to her dying friend, not to the baby she had held and loved from the beginning. "I promise," Laura whispered, squeezing Kayla's hand. "I'll take care of Lily. I'll love her like she's my own." Relief softened Kayla's features. "She is yours now," she murmured. "Tell her about me someday. Tell her I loved her more than anything." "I will," Laura promised, tears flowing freely. "I'll tell her every day." They sat in silence for several more minutes, Kayla's breathing growing more labored. Then she spoke again, so faint Laura had to lean closer to hear. "The blue hippo, it's her favorite. She won't sleep without it." Laura nodded, absorbing every word like it was sacred. "Blue hippo, got it? And she likes when you sing, 'You are my sunshine,' but only the first verse. The rest makes her cry." Kayla tried to smile, but it turned into a grimace of pain. "I should get the doctor," Laura said, alarmed by Kayla's pallor. "No." Kayla gripped her hand tighter. "Stay with me, please." Her eyes drifted to the window, where late afternoon light cast long shadows. "I always loved sunsets. It seems right somehow." Laura followed her gaze, feeling a chill as the golden light stretched toward Kayla, as if reaching to take her away. She had the urge to pull the blinds to hold it all back. "Laura?" Kayla's voice was barely audible now. "I'm here. Thank you." Two simple words, filled with everything unspoken. Laura stayed beside her as the sunset faded to dusk, holding Kayla's hand as the breaths grew further apart. Until finally, with one last exhale, she was gone. Laura didn't let go, not even after the doctors came. She sat still, holding her friend's hand, unable to accept that her bright, fierce Kayla was now just a body beneath sterile sheets. Eventually, a kind social worker guided Laura to a quiet room and gently explained what came next. Lily was still at her regular sitter's house and could stay there overnight. Child services would be contacted, but since Kayla had made legal arrangements, they could begin the guardianship transfer to Laura right away. "Would you like to pick Lily up tomorrow morning?" the social worker asked. "Or do you need more time to prepare?" The question jolted Laura back to the present. Tomorrow, Lily would need a crib. She'd need diapers, formula, clothes. "I'll pick her up in the morning," Laura said, surprising herself with how certain she sounded. "I just need tonight to get everything ready." The social worker nodded and handed her a card. "Call me if you need anything. This is a lot to take in." Laura drove home in a daze, her mind flicking through logistical checklists to block out the enormity of what had happened. She'd need to convert the home office into a nursery. No, she couldn't face dismantling the old nursery just yet. She'd need a car seat. Do 3-month-olds need special formula? She had no idea. And Ryan. Laura pulled into the driveway and stared at the darkened house. She needed to call him. This couldn't wait until he returned in 3 days. Sitting at the kitchen table, Laura dialed his number, mentally rehearsing what to say. He picked up on the 4th ring, the background noise suggesting he was at a restaurant. "Hey you," Ryan said. "I was just about to call. How did it go with Dr. Patel?" Laura took a deep breath. "Ryan, something happened. Something big." She told him everything. The final diagnosis. Kayla's accident. The promise she had made. "You agreed to take her baby?" Ryan's voice had a sharp edge Laura had never heard before. "Without even calling me first?" "She was dying, Ryan. She made me Lily's guardian months ago." "What was I supposed to say?" "You were supposed to say you needed to talk to your husband. This isn't like adopting a puppy, Laura. This is a lifetime commitment to someone else's child." The words, "someone else's child," stung more than Laura had expected. Lily isn't just someone else's child. She's Kayla's daughter. She's a baby who needs us, needs you. "You mean you?" "I never agreed to this." "Ryan, please," Laura's voice broke. "I know this is sudden, but when you meet her, we'll talk." "When I get home," he cut her off. "I need to process this. I can't do it over the phone, not in the middle of a business dinner." The line went dead before Laura could say anything more. She stared at her phone, a chill spreading through her. She had expected shock, even resistance, but not cold anger. His voice had carried a finality she hadn't anticipated, as if her decision had severed something irreparable. In that silence, Laura felt the distance between them harden into a wall. And for one terrible moment she wondered, had she done the right thing? What if she had just lost both her husband and her last chance at a family in a single breath? "He just needs time," she told herself. "He'll understand when he meets Lily." Laura spent the night in a whirlwind of preparation. She ordered a crib for next-day delivery, bought diapers and formula at a 24-hour grocery store, and cleaned out the guest room to serve as Lily's temporary nursery. By dawn, the room was ready, functional, if not beautiful. At 9 a.m., Laura arrived at the sitter's house, a small bungalow with a tidy front yard. Karen, the older woman who had cared for Lily since Kayla returned to work, met her at the door. Her expression solemn. "I heard about Kayla last night," she said gently, leading Laura inside. Such a tragedy. Lily lay in a portable crib, her tiny legs kicking the air. When she saw Laura, her face broke into a toothless grin that pierced straight through her heart. "Hi, sweet girl," Laura whispered, lifting her into her arms. The weight, the warmth, it felt right in a way she couldn't explain. Karen helped gather Lily's things, showing Laura how to mix her formula and explaining her feeding schedule. "Kayla always said you were the most responsible person she knew," Karen said as they packed the car. "She told me once that if anything ever happened, you were the only one she'd trust with Lily." Laura swallowed hard. "I won't let her down." Even as the words left her lips, they felt like a vow, one she had no idea how to keep, but every intention of honoring. The drive home felt surreal. Every few minutes, Laura glanced in the rearview mirror at Lily, safe in her new car seat, staring wide-eyed out the window. "It's just us now, little one," Laura said softly. "But I promise, you'll always know how much your mama loved you." The first day passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and quiet awe as Laura watched Lily sleep. By evening, she had settled into a rhythm, Googling parenting tips between naps and calling the social worker twice with questions. As she rocked Lily to sleep that night, humming "You Are My Sunshine" softly in the dim nursery, a strange peace settled over her. For the first time since receiving her diagnosis, the aching emptiness had lifted. In its place was something new, frightening, exhilarating, and filled with purpose. "Your mama was right," she whispered to the baby in her arms. "I think I was meant to be your mother all along." The next 2 days brought a new routine. Laura called work and arranged for emergency family leave. She contacted Kayla's lawyer and began the formal guardianship process. She even met with the funeral director to handle Kayla's arrangements. Lily nestled snugly in a baby carrier against her chest. By the time Ryan's key turned in the lock on the third day, Laura had begun to hope. Lily was thriving in her care. Surely Ryan would see what she already knew. This child belonged with them. But one look at his face as he entered the house told her everything. "So it's true," he said flatly. "You actually brought her home." "Ryan," Laura began, gently shifting Lily to her shoulder to burp her. "I know this is sudden." "Sudden?" Ryan dropped his suitcase with a thud that made Lily flinch. "You made a life-changing decision without me, and you call it sudden?" "What choice did I have?" Laura kept her voice calm, rubbing Lily's back soothingly. "Kayla was dying. She had no one else. That's not our problem." Ryan's voice rose and Lily began to whimper. "We've spent years trying to have our own child, and the very day you find out you can't, you bring home someone else's baby?" The cruelty of his timing hit Laura like a physical blow. Her heart cracked open all over again, the fragile sense of belonging she'd started to feel crumbling beneath the weight of his accusation. "I didn't decide anything," she said, struggling to stay calm for Lily's sake. "Kayla named me guardian months ago. This was her dying wish." Ryan paced the living room, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "And what about my wishes? Did those factor into your decision at all?" "You're acting like I planned this," Laura said, her own anger beginning to rise. "My best friend died 3 days ago, Ryan. This baby lost her mother. I'm doing what any decent person would do." "No," Ryan said, stepping forward and pointing at her. "You're doing what someone desperate for a child would do. You're using this tragedy to get what you've always wanted." Laura stared at him, stunned by the cruelty of the accusation. "That's not true, isn't it?" Ryan laughed bitterly. "For years I've watched you obsess over having a baby. Every conversation, every decision, everything in our lives has revolved around getting pregnant." "Because you wanted a child too," Laura protested. "We both did." "I wanted our child," Ryan said firmly, "not someone else's problem." Lily began to cry loudly now, responding to the tension that filled the room. Laura stood and gently bounced her in her arms to calm her. "I need to put her down," she said tightly. "We can talk when she's asleep." Ryan watched her head toward the guest room, his face unreadable. "That's our home office," he said. "Not anymore," Laura replied without turning back. An hour later, with Lily finally asleep, Laura found Ryan at the kitchen table, a tumbler of whiskey in his hand. He looked up as she entered, his eyes rimmed red. Whether from emotion or the alcohol, she couldn't tell. "I've been thinking about all of this, ever since you called," he said, his voice calmer but still distant. Laura sat down across from him, a faint flicker of hope rising in her chest. And I think we need to be realistic." He took a sip. "I've been rethinking our marriage since we got your test results." The words hit Laura like a punch of cold air. "What does that mean?" Ryan didn't meet her eyes. "It means I've always been clear about wanting children, my children, a family that's really mine." Laura's voice caught. "A family that's—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "You know what I mean," Ryan said. "I'm 39, Laura. I still have time to start over, to have the family I've always wanted." Laura sat completely still, watching it all unravel, as if from outside her body. "You're talking about divorce." Ryan shrugged, the motion casual, like discussing dinner plans. "I'm talking about facing reality. You can't give me children, and now you've taken in someone else's baby, without asking me." "So this is my fault?" Laura's voice rose, despite her effort to contain it. "After 10 years of marriage, you're throwing everything away because I can't get pregnant, and because I won't abandon a motherless child?" "Don't make this about morality," Ryan snapped. "This is about what we both want. And clearly, that's not the same thing anymore." Laura stood, needing distance from the stranger in front of her. "The Ryan I married would never treat a child like they didn't matter. He would never turn his back on someone who needed him." "Maybe you never really knew me," Ryan replied, finishing his drink. "Or maybe losing all those babies changed both of us." "Don't you dare," Laura whispered, her hands clenching into fists. "Don't you dare use our losses to justify this." Ryan stood too, reaching for the bottle to pour another drink. "Look, I didn't come home to fight. I came to be reasonable. We need to talk about what happens next." "Which is what exactly?" "I think you should stay somewhere else while we figure this out. My parents offered their place at the lake until you find an apartment. The casual way he dropped this news made Laura's knees go weak. You talked to your parents about this before even speaking to me? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I needed advice. They agree this is for the best. I'm sure they do, Laura said bitterly. His parents had never warmed to her, especially after years of failed pregnancies. Margaret, his mother, had once asked if Laura had considered her fertility before marrying her son. They're coming over tomorrow to help us work through the details, Ryan added, avoiding her eyes. You invited your parents to help kick me out of my own home? It's not like that, Ryan protested. They just want to support us both during this transition. Laura laughed, short and hollow. Your mother has wanted me gone since the wedding, and now she gets her wish. A cry from the baby monitor cut through the rising tension. Laura turned toward the hallway, then paused and looked back at him. That child in there just lost her mother. Her whole world changed in an instant, and unlike you, she didn't get a choice. Her voice remained steady, even as her heart broke. I made a promise to my best friend on her deathbed, and I intend to keep it. She stepped out of the kitchen to go comfort Lily, a strange mix of heartbreak and clarity settling over her. The man she had loved for nearly a decade had chosen to walk away rather than embrace what life had placed in their path. And somehow, despite all the pain, Laura knew with absolute certainty she had made the right choice. The morning brought no relief from the tension that had settled over the house. Laura had spent most of the night in the makeshift nursery, dozing in a chair beside Lily's crib, unwilling to share a bed with the stranger her husband had become. When Lily woke at 6 a.m., hungry and wet, Laura changed and fed her with the quiet efficiency she'd developed over the last few days. As she burped the baby, she found herself speaking softly. We're gonna be okay, you know? I have some savings. We'll find a little place of our own. I'll figure out work. Somehow, we'll make this work. Lily responded with a contented gurgle, her tiny hand curling around Laura's finger. The simple gesture brought tears to Laura's eyes. See, you get it, she whispered. We've got each other now. Laura dressed Lily in a yellow onesie with ducks that she'd found among the baby clothes Kayla had kept. She was fastening the last snap when she heard the front door open, followed by voices in the living room. Her in-laws had arrived, early of course. Taking a deep breath, Laura lifted Lily onto her shoulder and walked out to face them. Margaret Bennett stood squarely in the center of the room, perfectly rigid in a tailored pantsuit, while her husband, Thomas, hovered nearby beside Ryan. All three turned as Laura entered. So this is the child? Margaret said, her gaze landing on Lily with a mix of curiosity and something colder. This is Lily, Laura corrected, instinctively holding the baby closer. My goddaughter. Yes, well, Margaret said, smoothing an invisible crease from her sleeve. Ryan has explained the situation to us. Has he? Laura asked, glancing at her husband, who was staring intently at the floor. And what situation is that exactly? Laura, please, Ryan finally spoke. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Thomas cleared his throat. We understand this is difficult, but we believe Ryan is making the right decision. Which decision is that? Laura asked, though she already knew. The one where he ends his marriage because I can't have children? Or the one where he throws out his wife for keeping a promise to her dying friend? That's not fair, Ryan said. No, it's not, Laura replied. None of this is fair. Margaret stepped forward, her face softening into the expression Laura had long recognized as a poor imitation of sympathy. Laura, dear, we understand you're emotional right now, but surely you can see that taking in someone else's child, under these circumstances, is a significant life choice, one that both partners need to agree on. So your solution is for Ryan to divorce me instead of considering giving this baby a home? Laura couldn't hide the bitterness in her voice. Our solution, Margaret emphasized, is to help you both move forward in a way that causes the least disruption to everyone's lives. The least disruption, Laura repeated, flatly. Thomas stepped in, his tone switching to that of a seasoned negotiator. We've worked out a fair financial arrangement. The lake house is available to you for up to 3 months while you secure new housing. Ryan will continue covering the mortgage here in the meantime, and you'll divide the rest according to the prenuptial agreement. Laura stared at him. You've already drafted divorce terms? Preliminary discussions only. Thomas assured her, as if that made any of it less offensive. Lily began to fuss, perhaps sensing Laura's tension. As she gently bounced the baby, Margaret looked on with a frown. "This isn't your child, Laura," she said quietly, as if explaining something to a slow learner. "You can't just take someone else's baby." "I didn't take her," Laura said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Her mother legally named me her guardian. There are papers." "Papers can be contested," Margaret said with a dismissive wave. "Surely there must be a blood relative more appropriate." The implication cut deep. Kayla had no family willing to care for Lily, and since when is legal guardianship not legitimate? Ryan finally spoke, placing a hand on his mother's arm. "Mom, the guardianship isn't the issue here." He turned to Laura. "The issue is you made a massive decision without me, and now you're choosing this over our marriage." "I'm choosing this?" Laura laughed in disbelief. "You're the one making ultimatums and planning a divorce behind my back." "What choice did you give me?" Ryan countered. "You brought a baby into our home without asking me." "A baby who needed me," Laura's voice rose. "A baby whose mother died, Ryan. What was I supposed to do? Leave her to the foster system? I promised Kayla I'd care for her." "That's not my problem," Ryan shouted, making Lily cry harder. Laura turned away, focusing on calming Lily, using the moment to collect herself. When she turned back, her voice was firm. "If caring for an orphan child isn't your problem, then I guess we have nothing more to discuss." Margaret sighed, exasperated. This emotional scene isn't helping anyone. "Actually," Laura said, surprised at her own strength, "I think it's helping clarify everything." She looked directly at Ryan. "If you're asking me to choose between you and Lily, that's not a choice at all." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You'll regret this, Laura. Playing mother to someone else's kid won't fill the void of not having your own." The cruelty of his words lingered in the room. Thomas shifted uncomfortably, but Margaret gave a small, approving nod, as if Ryan had finally voiced what she'd been thinking all along. "I think it's time we sorted out your belongings," Margaret said briskly. "Thomas and Ryan can help carry things to your car." The next hour passed in a surreal blur. Laura packed the essentials, her clothes, toiletries, and the few baby items she'd managed to buy, while Ryan and his father carried boxes to the car. Margaret supervised, occasionally offering helpful suggestions in a tone so condescending Laura had to grit her teeth. She moved mechanically, her hands folding familiar clothes into unfamiliar bags, her mind spinning with doubt she wouldn't dare voice aloud. What if she had acted too quickly? What if she had misunderstood Kayla's wish? Each item Laura placed in the suitcase felt like closing the door on another version of her life, the life she had built on hopes now shattered. And yet, amid the quiet ache, there was a strange clarity. She wasn't running away. She was choosing something better. As Laura folded Lily's last onesie into the suitcase, Margaret appeared in the nursery doorway. "You know, you could still change your mind," she said, her voice softer than usual. "Ryan would reconsider if you returned the child to the proper authorities." Laura didn't look up. "Lily is not an item to be returned, Margaret. She's a baby. A child who needs love and stability, something I promised her mother I would give." "And what about the promises you made to my son?" Margaret countered. "The vows you took?" Now Laura looked up. "Those vows included for better or worse." Ryan seems to have forgotten that part. Margaret's expression hardened. "You'll regret choosing this child over my son." Laura zipped the suitcase and stood. "No," she said quietly but firmly. "I don't think I will." When everything was packed, Laura strapped Lily into her car seat and took one last look she had called home for 5 years. Ryan stood on the porch, watching her, his face a mixture of anger and something else. Regret, maybe, or just confusion. "Where will you go?" he asked as she opened the driver's side door. "Not your parents' lake house," Laura replied. She had already called her coworker Rachel, who had offered up her spare room without hesitation. "I'll have my lawyer contact you about the rest." Ryan nodded stiffly. "I'm sorry it ended like this." Laura looked at him, really looked at him, and felt a wave of clarity. "I'm not sorry," she said softly. "Not about Lily. I'm only sorry I didn't realize sooner who you really are." As she drove away, Lily asleep in the back seat, wet tears streamed down Laura's cheeks, but underneath the grief and shock, something unexpected stirred. A small, stubborn flicker of hope. Her hands gripped the wheel more steadily now, not out of fear, but out of quiet resolve. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew what it wouldn't include: regret. She glanced in the rearview mirror at the tiny person who had turned her life upside down in just 4 days. "It's just us now, little one," she whispered. "We'll figure it out." Rachel's spare bedroom was small but cozy, with enough room for a portable crib and Laura's suitcase. The generosity of a coworker she'd known for only 2 years stood in sharp contrast to the cold rejection from the man she'd loved for 7. "It's not much," Rachel apologized, helping Laura unpack Lily's things. "But you can stay as long as you need to." "It's perfect," Laura assured her, fighting back a fresh wave of tears. "I can't thank you enough." "Don't thank me yet," Rachel smiled, adjusting a plush bunny in Lily's crib. "Wait until you've been woken up by this one at 3 a.m. That first night in Rachel's home, after Lily finally drifted off to sleep, Laura sat on the edge of the bed and let the weight of the past week hit her. She had learned she would never have biological children, lost her best friend, become the guardian of an orphaned baby, and watched her marriage fall apart. She felt hollow and full all at once, emptied by loss, yet filled with the gravity of a love she hadn't planned for. She reached for her phone and scrolled to Ryan's number, pausing. What would she even say? Every conversation since Kayla's death had only confirmed how different their values truly were. Instead, she opened her email and typed a message to her company's HR department, asking for information on extended family leave options. "One step at a time," she whispered. "Focus on what you can control." The next morning, Laura woke to Lily's hungry cries and the smell of coffee from the kitchen. After feeding and changing her, she found Rachel already dressed for work, making breakfast. "I made extra," Rachel said, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs her way. "Figured you could use the fuel." "You're amazing," Laura said sincerely, balancing Lily on one arm while eating with the other. "So what's your plan?" Rachel asked, sitting down across from her. Laura took a bite, realizing she couldn't remember the last time she'd had a proper meal. "Find an apartment, figure out childcare, go back to work eventually. Beyond that?" She shrugged. "I haven't had time to think it through." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "My cousin manages a small apartment complex about 10 minutes from here. Nothing fancy, but clean and affordable. Want me to call her?" Laura felt a swell of gratitude. "Would you? That would be incredible." "Consider it done," Rachel said, checking her watch and standing up. "I've got to get to work. Make yourself at home. Let me know if you need anything." Once she was alone, Laura spent the morning researching childcare options, calling her bank to separate her finances from Ryan's, and speaking with a lawyer recommended by Rachel's brother. By the afternoon, she had the beginnings of a plan and a to-do list that, while overwhelming, felt manageable. "Progress, Lily," she said as she changed the baby's diaper. "We're making progress." Rachel's cousin, Anita, called that evening with news about a recently vacated one-bedroom apartment. "It's small," she warned, "but the building has good security and there's a nice park across the street." The apartment was indeed small, a compact living room connected to a narrow kitchen, a bedroom barely big enough for a full-size bed, and a bathroom with old tiles but a surprisingly strong shower. The walls needed paint. The carpet had seen better days, but sunlight poured in through wide windows. "It's perfect," Laura said, already imagining where Lily's crib would go. "When can I move in?" Anita smiled. "Rachel explained your situation. I can have the paperwork ready tomorrow, and you can move in by the weekend if you'd like." Laura signed the lease the next day, using a portion of her savings for the deposit and first month's rent. Rachel helped her shop for essentials: a futon, a small dining table, some kitchen basics. By Saturday, Laura and Lily were settled into their new home, sparse as it was. That first night in the apartment, after Lily had gone to sleep in her new crib, assembled by Rachel's boyfriend, Laura stood in the middle of the living room, taking it all in. She had left behind almost everything she'd shared with Ryan, bringing only what she needed and what Lily needed. The apartment felt empty, but also full of promise. A blank slate for the life they were starting. "We're going to make this work," she promised the sleeping baby through the monitor. Somehow, the weeks that followed settled into a new rhythm. Laura was approved for extended family leave from work. giving her 3 months at half pay to adapt to her role as Lily's guardian. The formal adoption process began with Kayla's lawyer helping her navigate the paperwork and legal logistics. True to form, Ryan had his attorney deliver divorce papers within 2 weeks of her leaving. Support came from unexpected places. Her neighbor across the hall, a retired woman named Mrs. Chen, offered to watch Lily when Laura needed to run errands. "I raised 4, she said simply. "1 baby's easy." Rachel continued to be a lifesaver, bringing dinner once a week and sometimes taking Lily for an hour so Laura could rest. Olivia, a childhood friend who had drifted away during Laura's marriage, reconnected after hearing what had happened. Ryan was always kind of a jerk. Olivia said bluntly during her first visit, bouncing Lily on her hip, "But I didn't say anything because you seemed happy." "I thought I was," Laura admitted. "Or maybe I was just so focused on having a baby that I didn't see how conditional his love really was." Olivia looked at her seriously. "And now?" Laura thought about it. "Not yet," she said honestly, "but I will be. We will be." Money was tight, even with the reduced salary. Diapers, formula, and baby supplies added up quickly. Laura sold her wedding ring to create an emergency fund, an act that felt both smart and symbolic. Final. She learned Lily's cues, the difference between a hungry cry and a sleepy whimper. She discovered Lily loved when she sang, hated bath time, and lit up when Laura made silly faces. She was mesmerized by the ceiling fan, staring at it for minutes on end. "Your mama would be so proud of you." Laura often whispered during late-night feedings, "She loved you so much, and so do I." Some nights were harder than others. When Lily was especially fussy, or when the sheer weight of single motherhood became too much, panic crept in. There were moments when Laura feared she wasn't enough, that she was failing Kayla's daughter. One night, after hours of bouncing, walking, pleading, nothing soothed Lily. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Laura gently set the crying baby in her crib and stepped into the bathroom, closing the door halfway. She sank onto the floor, buried her face in a towel, and sobbed. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to do this." After 5 minutes of crying and silence, she splashed cold water on her face, took a deep breath, and returned to the nursery. She picked up the red-faced, hiccuping baby and held her tight. "I'm sorry, sweet girl," she murmured. "I'm doing my best. I promise we'll figure this out together." Then she began to hum and softly sing. Not "You Are My Sunshine," that had failed earlier, but a lullaby her own mother used to sing to her. To her amazement, Lily's cries slowly faded to whimpers, then to the occasional hiccup, and finally to the slow, steady rhythm of sleep. Laura stayed standing long after Lily had dozed off, afraid to break the spell by setting her down. This small success, figuring out what comforted this tiny human, felt monumental. She'd felt like a failure so many nights in recent weeks, unable to soothe Lily, questioning if she was strong enough for this. But now, holding her daughter in that stillness, she dared to believe she might be more capable than she knew. "See?" she whispered. "We figured it out." 6 weeks into their new life, Laura received an unexpected call from Ryan's lawyer. The divorce was proceeding smoothly. Ryan wasn't contesting the asset division they'd negotiated through their attorneys. But there was a new development. "Ryan wants to sell the house," the lawyer said. "He's asking if you'd like to buy out his share. Otherwise, it goes on the market next month." Laura stared out the apartment window, watching moms in the park across the street push strollers along curving paths. The house she and Ryan once shared had been their dream, a spacious home in a great school district with a yard meant for kids. Now, those same features made the loss feel sharper. "Can I think about it?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. She couldn't afford that mortgage alone, not with the expenses of raising Lily. "Of course, he's offering you first right of refusal as a courtesy." A courtesy. Laura nearly laughed at the absurd formality. How easily love could be dismantled into contracts and signatures, how quickly promises became bullet points in a legal brief. 7 years of marriage reduced to paperwork and polite legal phrasing. That evening, feeding Lily her bottle, Laura let herself think about Ryan for the first time in weeks. The anger had faded, leaving a hollow sadness for what could have been. She tried to picture a version of life where Ryan had welcomed Lily, where they'd become a family. But the image refused to form. The truth was Ryan's rejection had revealed fundamental differences, ones that likely would have emerged eventually, even without Lily. "We're better off," Laura told the baby, who looked up with wide, serious eyes, "even if it doesn't always feel that way." 3 months into their new life, Laura's leave was ending. She had found a daycare just a few blocks from her apartment that had an opening for Lily. She'd built a routine that mostly worked, and had even painted the apartment walls a warm yellow. The divorce was almost finalized. The house was listed, and she was preparing to go back to work. The night before her return, Laura sat on the floor beside Lily, now 6 months old and learning to sit up. Lily toppled over, giggling as Laura caught her. "You're getting so big," Laura said, helping her upright again. "Your mama would be amazed." At the mention of Kayla, a sharp ache tugged at Laura's chest. She still missed her friend. Desperately. Still caught herself reaching for her phone to share a photo, a moment, a milestone. The grief hadn't disappeared. It had just woven itself into the background of daily life. Lily babbled, a string of consonants that sounded more purposeful by the day. Laura responded as if it were conversation. "I know. It is exciting. And yes, I'm a little nervous about tomorrow, too." She didn't say it aloud, but returning to work felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, one foot in a world she knew, the other firmly planted in a life she was still learning to navigate. Lily reached for a soft toy, her brow furrowing in concentration until her fingers closed around it. "That's it," Laura encouraged. "You've got it." The moment, simple as it was, felt profound. This tiny victory, this joy. Laura realized with surprise that despite everything, despite the losses, the grief, the upheaval, she was happy. Not always, not perfectly, but genuinely. "We're going to be okay," she told Lily, believing it fully for the first time. "Better than okay. We're going to be amazing." The next morning, Laura dropped Lily off at daycare, forcing herself not to linger as a kind caregiver took her from her arms. Lily was quickly distracted by a colorful mobile above the crib area, barely noticing when Laura slipped away. As she walked to work, Laura felt both heavier and lighter. Relieved to return to the professional world, but already missing Lily with an intensity that surprised her. Is this how all working parents feel? She wondered. The constant tug between two worlds. Her coworkers welcomed her back warmly, many of them aware of the major changes in her life. Her boss, Michael, pulled her aside after the morning meeting. "We're glad to have you back," he said sincerely. "And I want you to know we're happy to be flexible if you need adjustments to your schedule. Single parenting isn't easy." Laura blinked back unexpected tears. "Thank you. That means a lot. I was raised by a single mom," Michael added. "I know what it takes." By lunchtime, Laura had already checked her phone a dozen times for updates from the daycare, and had shown Lily's photo to anyone who even hinted at interest. She was deep in a project meeting, her professional brain fully re-engaged for the first time in months. By evening, she was rushing to pick up Lily before daycare closed, her heart pounding with anticipation. The baby's face lit up when she spotted Laura, tiny arms reaching upward in a gesture that made all of it, the stress, the exhaustion, the daily juggling act, completely worth it. "Hey, sweet girl," Laura said, scooping Lily into her arms. "I missed you so much." That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Laura opened her laptop and, on impulse, started a blog. She titled it The Unexpected Mother and wrote her first post, a candid reflection on her journey from infertility to single motherhood, all through a promise she never saw coming. She didn't expect anyone to read it. The writing was for herself, a way to process it all. But to her surprise, people did read it. Friends shared the post. Strangers left comments. Many shared their own stories of adoption, unexpected parenthood, and navigating life as a single parent. Within weeks, Laura found herself part of an online community that made her feel less alone. For the first time in months, she felt heard, not just as a mother, but as a woman who had endured something complex and still found meaning in the aftermath. "You should write a book," Olivia said one night as she helped Laura fold laundry. Lily, now 7 months old and determined to crawl, rocked back and forth on her blanket, focused and wobbly. Laura laughed. "When would I possibly have time? Between work, Lily, and remembering to eat, I'm at full capacity." "I'm serious," Olivia insisted. "Your blog is helping people. You've got almost 1,000 followers now." "It's still surreal," Laura admitted. "I never imagined anyone would care about our story." People relate to realness, Olivia said, watching Lily finally propel herself forward a few inches. And speaking of resilience, I think someone's about to be mobile. Laura turned just in time to see Lily's determined face as she began to crawl for the first time. "Oh my God," Laura gasped, grabbing her phone to record. "Lily, you're doing it." As Lily practiced her new skill, focused and proud, Laura felt a bittersweet swell of joy. Mia should be here for this, she thought. She should be the one watching her daughter crawl for the first time. The ache of absence pulsed in her chest, sharp and sudden, a reminder that joy and grief often walk hand in hand. That night, after sharing the milestone on her blog, Laura opened the private journal she kept for Lily, a record of memories and thoughts to share when the time was right. "Today, you crawled for the first time," she wrote. "You were so proud, and I was proud too. Your determination reminded me of your birth mom. She would have cheered the loudest. So today, I cheered loud enough for both of us." Life settled into a new rhythm. Laura's days were shaped around Lily's schedule. The apartment filled with baby gear and laughter. The divorce was finalized. The house sold. Laura's share of the proceeds became a modest financial cushion. Ryan had relocated to Chicago, maintaining minimal contact via attorneys. Lily continued to grow, her personality blossoming, stubborn, curious, and already full of humor. She walked at 11 months, fearless and wobbly. Her first word was book, quickly followed by mama, a word that still made Laura cry, even though it came with the quiet acknowledgement that she was Lily's second mother. But being second didn't make her less. It only deepened her commitment to be everything Lily needed. Laura's blog kept gaining readers, opening unexpected doors. She spoke at a conference for adoptive parents, contributed to an anthology about unconventional motherhood, and formed lasting bonds with others walking a similar path. "I never planned any of this," Laura confessed to Olivia on Lily's first birthday, watching the toddler gleefully smear cake across her cheeks. "That's how the best stories start," Olivia replied, snapping pictures. "Unplanned, unexpected, and better than anything you thought you wanted." Looking around at the small crowd, Rachel and her boyfriend, Mrs. Chen, co-workers who'd become friends, moms from daycare, Laura realized they had built something beautiful from the ruins of what once was. A new kind of family. Later that night, after everyone had left and Lily was asleep in her crib, now relocated to the living room to make space for toys, Laura stood by the window, looking out at the park across the street. A year ago, she had been devastated by her diagnosis, then shattered by Ryan's rejection. And now, somehow she felt whole in a way she'd never expected. Her phone buzzed with a message from Olivia. "You're amazing. What you've built for Lily and yourself this year is nothing short of miraculous. Mia would be so proud." Laura smiled, knowing it was true. From the baby monitor, the soft rhythm of Lily's breathing echoed through the quiet apartment, the steady heartbeat of Laura's new life. "We did it, Kayla," Laura whispered to her absent friend. 1 year down, a lifetime to go. Spring arrived in full color at the park across from Laura's apartment. Lily, now 15 months old, was enchanted by the blooming flowers along the walking paths, pointing and babbling with joy during their evening strolls. "Yes, that's a daffodil," Laura would explain patiently. "Can you say daffodil?" "Da-da," Lily would reply, reducing every complex word to her favorite syllable. Life had settled into a steady rhythm. Laura had recently been promoted at work and successfully negotiated a flexible schedule that allowed her to work from home 2 days a week. Lily flourished at daycare, making friends and learning new skills each day. Their small apartment had become a warm, happy home, cluttered with books, toys, and signs of a thriving toddler. Still, some nights, Laura found herself staring at the ceiling long after Lily had gone to sleep, wondering if this balance she'd built was as sturdy as it seemed, or if it was one hard day away from falling apart. On a mild Tuesday evening, Laura was cooking dinner while Lily stacked blocks on the kitchen floor. The doorbell rang, an unusual sound as most friends texted before dropping by. "Who could that be?" Laura asked playfully. "Shall we go see?" Lily toddled beside her, clinging to Laura's pant leg. Through the peephole, Laura saw a man in military uniform. Maybe collecting for veterans, she thought, opening the door while keeping Lily partially behind her out of instinct. The man was younger than she expected, around 30, with cropped dark hair and tired eyes. He shifted nervously. Can I help you? Laura asked. Are you Laura Bennett? His voice was deep, unsure. Yes, she said, puzzled. His gaze dropped to Lily, who peeked around Laura's legs. Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of emotion Laura couldn't place. My name is Jake Moore, he said quietly. I'm Lily's biological father. Laura felt the floor vanish beneath her. She instinctively moved closer to Lily. That's not possible, she said, stunned. Kayla always said Lily's father wasn't in the picture. Jake nodded slightly. She wouldn't have known how to reach me. I was deployed when he trailed off. May I please come in, just to talk? Laura hesitated. Every protective instinct screamed to shut the door, to keep this stranger away. But something in his eyes, a mix of uncertainty and hope, gave her pause. And underneath it all, a fragile curiosity bloomed. If he was telling the truth, could Lily have more family than Laura ever imagined? How do I know you're telling the truth? She asked. Jake pulled a folded paper from his jacket. I have a copy of Lily's birth certificate. I found it while trying to locate Kayla after returning home 3 months ago. That's when I learned about the accident. Laura took the document with trembling hands. There it was, Jacob Allen Moore, listed as the father. She had never seen Lily's original birth certificate. All her legal documents had come through Kayla's lawyer. Please, Jake said softly. I just want to talk. Laura stepped aside stiffly. Lily, sensing tension, clung tighter. I'm going to put her in the playpen with a snack, Laura said. Make yourself comfortable in the kitchen. Her mind swirled as she sliced apples onto Lily's favorite plate. Why had Kayla never mentioned his name? Why say he wasn't involved? And what did this man want now? After settling Lily with her snack, Laura returned to the living room to find Jake standing awkwardly, still holding his cap. Please, sit, she said, gesturing toward the couch and taking the armchair across from him. You said you were deployed? Jake nodded. Afghanistan. I was there when Lily was born. Kayla and we weren't together long, maybe 2 months. Then I got orders and she ended things. She never told you she was pregnant? Laura asked. No. His face clouded. I tried to keep in touch, but she stopped replying. I thought she moved on. When I came home 3 months ago, I wanted to say hello, see how she was doing. Instead, I found out she'd passed away over a year ago. Laura watched him closely, searching for any sign of dishonesty. How did you find me? It wasn't easy, Jake admitted. I went to her old apartment, but someone new lived there. The neighbor remembered her, mentioned the accident, and said she had a baby. I couldn't believe it. He ran a hand through his short hair. I checked public records, found Lily's birth certificate with my name on it, then tracked down Kayla's lawyer, who finally told me about the guardianship. Laura's throat felt dry. What do you want? She asked, her voice even but wary. Jake's eyes flicked to the playpen, where Lily happily munched apple slices. I don't know, no, Jake said honestly. When I found out I had a daughter and that Kayla had died, I needed to see her, to understand. She's not just a daughter, Laura said, a sharp edge creeping into her voice. She's Lily. She's a person, with a life and a routine. She stopped herself, struggling to stay composed. I'm in the process of adopting her. I'm the only mother she remembers. Jake raised both hands in reassurance. I'm not here to disrupt her life, I swear. He looked at Lily again, his expression softening. I just wanted to see her. Just once. To know her. Laura felt caught between compassion for a man who just discovered he had a daughter and fierce protectiveness for the little girl who was now her whole world. A storm brewed quietly beneath her skin, the fear of losing what she had just begun to believe was truly hers. And yet, the grief in Jake's voice was unmistakable. I need to know your intentions, she said flatly. Are you planning to seek custody? Jake looked genuinely startled. No, God no. I wouldn't. He shook his head emphatically. I don't know the first thing about raising a child, and she doesn't know me. That would be cruel. Some of the tension drained from Laura's shoulders. Then what do you want? Jake paused, thinking carefully. Honestly, I'm not even sure. When I found out about her, I just felt this responsibility, like I needed to make sure she was okay at the very least. He met Laura's gaze. Now that I've found you, I can see she's more than okay. His voice trembled slightly, not with weakness but with reverence, as if simply seeing Lily safe had grounded something inside him. Lily had finished her snack and was now babbling to herself, playing with a stuffed bunny. Jake watched her with something like awe. "She looks like my sister," he said quietly. "Same eyes." The simple, innocent comment softened something in Laura. "Would you like to see some pictures?" she asked cautiously. "I have albums." Jake's face lit up. "You do? I'd love that, thank you." Laura retrieved her laptop and opened a folder of photos organized by month. These start from when she was 3 months old, right after. She didn't finish. For the next hour, she clicked through images of Lily's first year. Her first tooth, her first steps, her first birthday. Jake asked questions, listening closely as Laura described each milestone. His reactions were honest, full of emotion, the kind of wonder that comes from seeing something truly meaningful for the first time. "You've done an amazing job with her," he said at last, his voice thick. "Better than I ever could have. Better than anyone could have expected." "I love her," Laura said simply. "She's my daughter, in every way that matters." Jake nodded slowly. "I can see that." He hesitated, then asked, "Would it be possible? Would you consider letting me meet her properly? Not as her father necessarily, just as someone who cares about her?" The request was far more reasonable than Laura had feared. Still, her instincts were protective. "I'd need to think about it," she said cautiously. "This is a lot to take in." Her heart was a battleground, logic urging caution, compassion tugging gently at her defenses. "Of course," Jake said quickly. "Take all the time you need. I'm staying in town for at least a few months. I just started working at the VA hospital." "You're a doctor?" Laura asked, surprised. Jake smiled faintly. "Combat medic. Now I'm a physician's assistant in rehabilitation services." The conversation drifted to safer ground. His work, her job, the neighborhood. Lily, bored of her toys, started to fuss in her playpen. "I should get her dinner started," Laura said, rising. Jake stood immediately. "I'll get out of your way. Thank you for not slamming the door in my face." "I considered it," Laura admitted with a hint of a smile. "But I'm glad I didn't." At the door, Jake paused. "Can I leave my number, in case you decide?" He didn't finish, but he didn't need to. Laura handed him her phone. Their fingers brushed briefly as he returned it. "She really is beautiful," Jake said, glancing at Lily, "just like her mother." Laura wasn't sure if he meant Kayla or herself, and she didn't ask. "I'll be in touch," she promised. After he left, Laura leaned against the door, her thoughts racing. Lily toddled over, arms raised. "Mama up," she said. Laura lifted her, holding her close and breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and apple slices. "Oh, Lily," she whispered. "Life is never simple, is it?" That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Laura called Olivia. "He seemed genuine," she explained after describing the unexpected visit. "Not threatening, almost grateful." "What are you going to do?" Olivia asked. "I don't know," Laura sighed. "Legally, he has rights. He could contest the adoption if he wanted to." "But he said he wouldn't." "People say a lot of things," Laura replied. "Ryan promised to love me forever, remember?" Olivia was quiet. "Then true, but not everyone is Ryan." Laura thought about Jake's face as he looked through the photos. The wonder, the regret, the care in his voice when he asked to meet Lily. "No," she agreed finally. "Not everyone is Ryan." After 3 days of careful thought, Laura texted Jake and suggested they meet at the park across from her apartment on Saturday morning. "Lily is usually at her best early in the day," she explained, "but I'd like to keep the first meeting brief." Jake replied almost instantly. "Whatever works best for Lily. Thank you for this chance." Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather, mild sunshine and a soft breeze. Laura dressed Lily in her favorite overalls and packed a bag with snacks, sunscreen, and other essentials for a morning out. "We're going to meet someone special today," she told Lily as she brushed her fine hair. "He knew your first mommy." Lily, more interested in the butterfly barrette Laura was trying to fasten, just smiled. "Fly," she said, pointing. "Yes, butterfly," Laura agreed. "Very pretty." Jake was waiting at the park entrance, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt instead of his usual uniform. He looked younger, more approachable, but visibly nervous. "Hi," he said, his eyes immediately finding Lily, who clutched Laura's hand and studied him curiously. "Thanks for coming. This is Lily," Laura said, kneeling beside the toddler. "Lily, this is Mr. Jake. Can you say hello?" Lily regarded him solemnly, then offered a tiny wave. "Hi." Jake's face lit up. He knelt to her level, keeping a respectful distance. "Hi, Lily. I like your butterfly." Lily touched the barrette proudly. Fly? That's right, butterfly, Jake said, glancing up at Laura with such sincere delight that some of her anxiety eased. There's a good playground this way, she offered. Lily loves the swings. The next hour passed more smoothly than Laura had expected. Jake followed their lead, watching as Lily explored the playground with toddler determination. When Lily let him push her on the swing, his careful attention to her cues, when to stop, when to keep going, impressed Laura. You're good with her, she observed while Lily dug in the sandbox. Jake shrugged. I've got nieces and nephews. Kids are pretty straightforward when you pay attention. Not all adults understand that, Laura replied, thinking of Ryan's impatience and discomfort around children. Military training helps, Jake said with a faint smile. Observation, adapting to new situations, following the lead of the person who knows the terrain better. Laura smiled back. I never thought of parenting in tactical terms, but that's surprisingly accurate. When Lily started rubbing her eyes and growing less adventurous, Laura said it was time for lunch and a nap. Can I walk you back? Jake asked. Laura hesitated for a moment, then nodded. They walked back with Lily between them, holding both their hands and occasionally asking to be swung forward. Laura found herself observing Jake closely, his attentiveness, his respect for her lead, the lack of ego in his behavior. It was all very different from what she had feared. At her building, Jake knelt beside Lily. It was very nice to meet you, he said seriously. Thank you for showing me the swings. Lily, in the blunt and affectionate way of toddlers, patted his cheek. Bye-bye, Jake. As he stood, Laura recognized the look on his face, someone touched by the rare magic of a child's acceptance. Thank you, he said to Laura. This meant a lot to me. It went well, she admitted. Better than I expected. Jake hesitated. Would it be possible? Would you consider letting me see her again sometime? Laura had been wondering the same thing throughout the morning. I think that would be okay, she said carefully. Maybe next weekend, same time? The relief and joy on Jake's face were unmistakable. That would be perfect. Thank you. As he turned to leave, Laura called after him. Jake, would you like to see her baby album? The printed one, with photos from when she was born. Kayla made it. Jake stopped, clearly moved. I would love that, more than I can say. Next time, Laura promised, I'll bring it to the park. After he left, Laura carried a sleepy Lily upstairs, her mind spinning with the implications of the morning. She had expected to feel threatened by Jake's presence, to see him as a competitor for Lily's love. Instead, she had been moved by his gentle respect and his obvious care for a child he'd only just met. As she prepared Lily's lunch, she realized something surprising. For the first time since taking Lily in, she wasn't the only one who saw how special this little girl was. There was someone else now, someone who cared about Lily's happiness and future. The thought was unexpectedly comforting. The Saturday park visits became a routine. Each week, Jake waited at the entrance, his face lighting up when he saw Lily toddling toward him. He always brought something small, a pinwheel, bubbles, a picture book about butterflies after learning of her fascination. Laura brought the baby album, just as promised. She watched as Jake studied each photo with reverent attention. When his finger gently traced a photo of Kayla holding newborn Lily, his eyes shimmered with emotion. She was beautiful, Jake said quietly. I wish I'd known. I wish I could have been there. What happened between you? Laura asked, the question that had lingered in her mind since Jake's first visit. Jake sighed and closed the baby album gently. Nothing dramatic. We met at a bar, hit it off, started seeing each other. When I got my deployment orders, I asked if we could try to keep it going long distance. She said no, he continued. She told me she'd done the military relationship thing before and couldn't do it again. He shrugged. I respected her decision. I was hurt, but I understood. She never mentioned you were the father, Laura said. When Kayla asked me to take Lily, she said there was no family who could care for her. In her mind, that was probably true, Jake replied. She had no way of knowing I'd want to be involved, and her family was terrible to her when she decided to keep the baby. That Laura finished, she told me. They both turned to watch Lily, who was now crouched in the grass, studying a dandelion with intense concentration. The sight of her, so focused and full of life, was grounding, reminding them both of what truly mattered beneath all the uncertainty. I want you to know, Jake said after a pause. I meant what I said that first day. I'm not here to disrupt Lily's life or challenge the adoption. You're her mother in every way that matters. Laura studied him carefully, searching for any hint of insincerity. It had become second nature to brace herself for disappointment, to expect someone's word to carry conditions. But she found none in Jake's eyes. Why are you telling me this now? Because I've seen you with her over the past few weeks, Jake said. Because I want you to trust that I'm only here for her. I want what's best for Lily. He met Laura's eyes. And because I can tell you still have doubts about me. Laura couldn't deny it. Even with all the evidence of Jake's good character, a part of her feared he might change his mind, might decide to assert his legal rights. I appreciate your honesty, she said at last, and I'm trying to trust your intentions. It's just... You've been let down, Jake finished, by people who should have been solid. The quiet understanding in his voice caught Laura off guard. She nodded, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in her throat. I lost my brother in Afghanistan, Jake said softly. He had a little boy, never got to know his dad. He watched Lily now trying to catch a butterfly. That experience, it changes how you see family, how you value it. There was pain in his voice, but also resolve, the kind forged in loss and softened by hope. I don't want to take her from you, he said. I just want to be a part of her life in whatever way you think is best. At that moment, hearing the genuine emotion in his voice, seeing the openness in his expression, Laura felt her last walls crumble. Jake wasn't a threat to the family she'd built. He could be part of it. I think Lily would benefit from having you in her life, she said slowly. Not just occasional visits, regularly. Jake's face lit up. Really? You mean that? Laura nodded. She should know her biological father, and you clearly care about her, more than I expected. Jake chuckled. Especially since I've only known about her for a month. But yeah, that's how it works with kids, right? Laura smiled. They get under your skin fast. In the weeks that followed, Jake's presence in Lily's life grew gradually. Their park visits stretched to include lunch. Then he began joining them for dinner once a week, learning Lily's bedtime routine, becoming familiar with her favorite toys and books. Laura noticed how naturally he fit into Lily's world, patient when she was fussy, enthusiastic about her every little discovery, consistent in how he supported Laura's parenting. He never tried to overstep, always deferred to Laura's decisions, while offering thoughtful suggestions when invited. He's not what I expected, Laura told Olivia one evening, after Lily had gone to bed. He's so respectful, of both of us. Sounds dangerous, Olivia teased, sipping wine. A good-looking veteran who's amazing with kids and knows how to respect boundaries. You should definitely be on high alert. Laura rolled her eyes. It's not like that. Why not? Olivia challenged. You've been single for what, almost 2 years? He's single. He clearly adores Lily, and, he looks at you like, he's Lily's biological father, Laura interrupted. That complicates everything. Only if you let it, Olivia replied. From everything you've said, he respects your role as Lily's mom. You three could be a family without the romance. Or maybe with it. She wiggled her eyebrows. Stop, Laura laughed, throwing a pillow at her. I'm not looking for romance. Maybe not, Olivia said, but sometimes it finds you anyway. 3 months after Jake first appeared, Laura's lawyer called with an update. The adoption petition is moving forward, she said, but the court has identified Lily's biological father. They'll need his formal consent before it can be finalized. Laura's stomach dropped. Have you had any contact with him? The lawyer asked. Laura explained everything, how Jake had found them, how their relationship had developed gradually, and how he had expressed nothing but support for the adoption. That's actually ideal, the lawyer said, sounding relieved. If he's willing to give formal consent while maintaining a relationship with Lily, the court will likely view that favorably. It's the best of both worlds for the child. That evening, Laura called Jake and asked if he could come over after Lily was asleep. There's something important I'd like to talk about, she said. He arrived promptly at 8 p.m., concern written all over his face. Is everything okay? He asked the moment she opened the door. Is Lily all right? She's fine, Laura reassured him with a smile. Fast asleep. This is about the adoption. Jake relaxed slightly as he followed her into the living room. What about it? Laura explained the lawyer's call, that the court required his formal consent to finalize the adoption. Jake nodded, unsurprised. I figured that would be part of the process. You're okay with it? Laura asked, watching his face closely. With me legally becoming Lily's mother? Laura, Jake said gently, you are Lily's mother. A legal document just makes it official. He leaned forward, sincerity in every word. I'll sign whatever you need. I want what's best for Lily, and that's you. Relief swept through Laura, followed by a wave of gratitude so strong it made her eyes burn. Thank you, she whispered. And for the first time in weeks, the knot of uncertainty in her chest began to loosen. She hadn't even realized how deeply she'd been bracing for resistance until it didn't come. Jake smiled. Don't thank me. I should be thanking you for giving Lily a loving home, for letting me be part of her life when you had every reason not to. They sat in a comfortable silence for a few moments before Jake spoke again. There's one thing I'd like to ask, though. Laura tensed. What's that? Would you be open to me being legally recognized as her father, not for custody, he added quickly, seeing her reaction. Just official acknowledgement, maybe even visitation rights, defined however you're comfortable. I don't want to disrupt anything. Laura listened closely. What exactly are you proposing? She asked calmly. Jake took a deep breath. I'd like to be recognized legally as Lily's father, with you having full custody. I'd like some visitation rights based on what's best for her. And maybe a voice in bigger decisions, like education or medical stuff, but with you always having final say. He was offering a compromise, acknowledging his biological connection while keeping Laura firmly in the parental lead. It was a solution that clearly centered Lily's well-being. Still, Laura's mind briefly flickered with fear. What if someday he changed his mind? What if he wanted more than she was willing to give? But then she looked at him, really looked, and found only steadiness, not ambition. He wasn't taking, he was asking. That seems fair, Laura said slowly. You are her father. She should grow up knowing that. Jake exhaled visibly. Thank you. I promise, I'll never give you a reason to regret this. As he stood to leave, he paused by the door. There's one more thing you should know. Laura raised an eyebrow. I've been offered a permanent position at the VA hospital, he said, and I've accepted. I'm staying in town for good. The news settled over Laura like warmth. Lily would have her father in her life, not just when the military allowed, but every day. I'm glad, she said honestly. Lily will benefit from having you around regularly. Jake's expression softened. Not just Lily, he said quietly. Good night, Laura. After she closed the door, Laura leaned against it, remembering Olivia's teasing from weeks ago. Was something developing between them beyond their shared love for Lily? The thought was both scary and comforting. One step at a time, she reminded herself. Let's finalize the adoption first. But when she checked on Lily before bed, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, Laura allowed herself to imagine a future where Lily had both a mother and father who loved her. And maybe someday, even loved each other. The adoption hearing was set for a Tuesday in late August, 8 months after Laura first brought Lily home. The courtroom was small and surprisingly warm, with wooden benches and tall windows letting in morning sunlight. Laura sat next to her lawyer, wearing a navy blue dress she'd splurged on just for the occasion. Jake sat directly behind them in a pressed uniform, having taken the day off from the hospital to be there. Olivia and Rachel were present too, along with Mrs. Les, Chen, and several of Laura's colleagues. The chosen family who had supported her and Lily from the very beginning. When the judge called their case, Laura stood, heart racing. The proceedings were brief but emotional. The judge reviewed the documents, including Jake's formal acknowledgement as Lily's biological father and his signed consent to the adoption, while still retaining limited paternal rights. This is an unusual arrangement, the judge remarked. The judge commented, but one that clearly puts the child's interests first. It's refreshing to see co-parents prioritizing stability and cooperation. At the end, the judge smiled. Laura Bennett, the court hereby recognizes you as the legal adoptive mother of Lily Grace Moore. Congratulations to your family. The finality of those words, your family, brought tears to Laura's eyes. She turned to where Olivia was holding Lily and reached for her daughter. It's official, sweet girl, she whispered as she hugged Lily close. You're stuck with me forever now. Jake approached, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Congratulations, Mom," he said warmly. "Thank you," Laura replied, her voice thick with gratitude. "Thank you for making this possible." They celebrated with lunch at Laura's favorite restaurant. Lily charmed everyone by trying to feed cake to each person at the table. By mid-afternoon, Laura was emotionally drained but deeply content as she carried a sleeping Lily into their apartment. "Home, sweet home," she murmured, laying Lily in her crib. "Our home, officially and forever." She had just settled on the couch with a long-overdue cup of tea when her phone rang. It was the office number. Surprising since she'd taken the day off for the hearing. "Hello? Laura, I'm so sorry to bother you on your day off," Melissa from reception said, sounding uncomfortable. "But there's someone here asking for you. He's been waiting for almost an hour and refuses to leave a message." "Who is it?" Laura asked, puzzled. "He says his name is Ryan Bennett. He says he's your husband." Laura nearly dropped her mug. "Ex-husband," she corrected automatically, her mind racing. "What does he want?" "He wouldn't say, just that it's important and personal," Melissa said, lowering her voice. "Should I call security? He's being polite but very insistent." Laura closed her eyes, trying to process this unexpected twist. "No, don't call security. Tell him," she paused, thinking. "Tell him I'll meet him at the coffee shop across from the office in 30 minutes. After hanging up, she sat motionless, her tea cooling beside her. Ryan, after nearly 2 years of silence, broken only by communication through attorneys, suddenly wanted to see her. Why now? She called Olivia, who showed up in record time to watch over a still sleeping Lily. "Want me to come with you?" her friend offered, concern etched on her face. Laura shook her head. "I need to do this alone. Whatever he wants, I have to face it myself." "Call me if you need backup," Olivia insisted. "I can have Rachel on standby too." The coffee shop was bustling with the late afternoon crowd. Laura spotted Ryan instantly, still handsome in a tailored suit, hair shorter than she remembered, his posture exuding the confidence she'd once found so attractive. He stood when he saw her, offering a hesitant smile. "Laura, thank you for coming." "What do you want, Ryan?" she asked without preamble, remaining standing. His smile faltered. "Could we sit?" "Please, I ordered your favorite." He gestured to a chai latte already waiting on the table. Laura sat down reluctantly, ignoring the drink. "I don't have much time. Lily will be waking up soon." "Lily," Ryan repeated. "The baby. She must be almost 2 now?" 18 months, Laura corrected. Today was her adoption finalization hearing, actually. Something flickered across Ryan's face. Regret, perhaps, or just surprise. "Congratulations," he said after a pause. "I'm happy for you." Laura studied him carefully, trying to reconcile this polite stranger with the man who had once packed her things and issued ultimatums. "Why are you here, Ryan?" He took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About how things ended." "Things didn't end," Laura said sharply. "You ended them when you chose to divorce me instead of accepting Lily." Ryan had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I know. I made a terrible mistake," Laura blinked, genuinely surprised. "A mistake?" "I was shocked, hurt when you made such a major decision without me," he said. "And I just found out about your condition. I wasn't thinking clearly." "My condition," Laura repeated flatly. "You mean my infertility? The medical fact that made me unworthy of staying your wife." Ryan winced. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Laura leaned forward. "You gave me an ultimatum. You wanted the baby. You said you wanted your own children, real children. Those were your exact words." "I was angry," he said. "People say things they don't mean when they're angry." Laura shook her head. "No, I think you meant exactly what you said. You just didn't expect me to choose the baby." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe you're right. I thought you'd realize what you were giving up and change your mind." He met her gaze. "I didn't expect you to be strong enough to walk away." The admission hung in the air, shockingly honest. Laura sat back, absorbing it. "So why are you here now? After all this time?" Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair in a way that felt so familiar. It gave Laura a strange sense of déjà vu. "I've been seeing someone. It was getting serious. But recently I realized I've been comparing her to you." "I can't move on, Laura. I've been thinking maybe we could try again." Laura stared at him, momentarily speechless. After everything, the ultimatum, the divorce, the life she'd built since, he expected to simply return? "Ryan." "No," she said firmly. That chapter is closed. But we had 8 good years together, he insisted. I made a mistake, I admit that, but people deserve second chances. You're right, Laura agreed. And I gave Lily and myself second chances at a family. I'm not interested in going backward. Ryan's expression darkened slightly. Is there someone else? That guy at the courthouse? The soldier? Jake is Lily's biological father, Laura replied coolly. We're co-parenting. Just co-parenting. Just co-parenting, Ryan repeated skeptically. Laura stood, grabbing her purse. My personal life is no longer your concern. I wish you well, Ryan, I really do, but we're done. As she turned to leave, he reached for her hand. My parents ask about you. They miss you. The same parents who supported your decision to kick me out for adopting a baby? She gently pulled her hand away. Please don't contact me again. Walking away, Laura felt lighter than she had in months. The closure she hadn't realized she still needed had finally arrived. 1 year later, Lily's second birthday party transformed Laura's small apartment into a whirlwind of color and sound. Balloons and streamers adorned every surface, and a handmade banner read Happy Birthday Lily in bright, messy letters. Jake's artistic contribution. More cake? Lily demanded, her cheeks already smudged with frosting. I think you've had enough sugar for one toddler, Laura laughed, wiping her daughter's face with a napkin. Jake appeared with a gift wrapped in sparkly paper. One more present, princess. Laura watched as Jake helped Lily unwrap a stuffed elephant, a companion to the one he'd given her when they first met. She's growing up so fast, Olivia said, joining Laura by the window. And so are you. Laura raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure I stopped growing decades ago. You know what I mean, Olivia nudged her shoulder. You're different now, stronger. Laura's gaze drifted to Jake, who was giving Lily an elephant ride around the living room, complete with trumpet sounds that sent her into giggles. We're taking it slow, Laura said softly. After everything with Ryan, I needed time. And Jake, he's been patient, understanding. She smiled. He says we already have the most important thing in common. As the afternoon light faded into evening, the guests trickled out until only Jake remained, helping Laura clean up while Lily napped, exhausted. Thank you for today, Laura said, handing him a stack of plates. Lily had a wonderful time. So did I, Jake said, his eyes meeting hers. You know, when I first came looking for you and Lily, I never expected this. This mess? Laura joked, gesturing to the balloons and crumbs. This family, Jake corrected gently, however unconventional. Laura paused, trash bag in hand. Is that what we are? A family? Jake stepped closer, voice soft. If you want to be. The kiss, when it came, felt like both an ending and a beginning. Closing one chapter, opening another. Later, as Jake said goodnight and promised to return for their planned zoo trip the next day, Laura stood in Lily's doorway, watching her sleep amid her new birthday treasures. We did it, Kayla, she whispered to her absent friend. She's safe, she's loved, and somehow, so am I. In the quiet apartment, Laura finally understood. Families weren't defined by blood or by law. They were built by choice, by the daily decision to stay, to love, to make something beautiful out of what life leaves behind. And she had chosen well. Dear friend, sometimes the strongest families aren't born. They're built, choice by choice, promise by promise. Laura didn't ask for the storms that came, but when they arrived, she stood firm. In the face of heartbreak, she chose love. In the absence of control, she embraced purpose. And like the Stoics remind us, the obstacle is the way. It's not the life we plan that defines us, but how we respond when life asks something more. Laura's journey is proof that love, chosen freely and given fully, can rewrite even the deepest losses into something beautiful. So if you're standing at a crossroads, unsure and afraid, remember, every act of quiet courage adds up. Every moment of compassion becomes a step toward peace. Like Laura, you may not have expected this path, but you just might find it leads somewhere better. With hope, the unexpected writer. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It's how we keep bringing real, heart-filled stories straight to you. Thanks for being part of the journey.